This is Lucy, who's talking to Richard on a beautiful busy day. They're standing on the sidewalk, outside of a busy downtown office building. She looks like she's had a night of partying, and is a little rough around the edges. She's laughing and happy, though we've all been there. She's fully hungover and a little tired. She wants to go home and rest before her classes. But Richard needs her help first before he will let her leave. They're talking and teasing, and Richard's trying to make a deal with Lucy. If she'll just deliver this package, everything's going to be fine. He keeps saying, "I just need you to take this inside." He says he's been here too many times over the last week and can't be seen again or it'll seem suspicious, and this situation is very suspicious anyway. Richard comes off like a pimp. Not gonna lie, Lucy seems like a party girl, and somewhat indifferent, carefree, and fun, but also doesn't seem to have good taste in men. She's somewhat unimpressive at this moment and seems like a pushover, which is obviously why Richard was attracted to her. It seems Lucy just wants to leave, and deep down we sense she already feels like something might be off. Richard keeps pushing her, and finally he handcuffs the briefcase to her arm. Lucy is clearly very upset, scared, and pissed off. She has to go inside the building and deliver the briefcase to Mr. Zhang without knowing what is inside. Lucy is scared to death. Shortly, she walks into the front lobby. She's currently in Taiwan, so there's a little bit of a translation issue from her English to Taiwanese. They ask her name, and she says Richard. Mr. Wang's guards come crawling out of the woodwork and start grabbing Lucy, and she's in total panic and sharing as she watches Richard get shot outside. Blood goes all over the glass, and Lucy is freaked out. She's dragged upstairs, where she's seated and surrounded by armed men. Mr. Wang is clearly the head honcho and makes an appearance from out of a room of dead bodies, and this has not escaped Lucy. She's begging for her life when he sits down. They can't communicate, so a translator is called. He tells her, via Mr. Wang, to open the package with the code she's been given. Everyone clears the room, and she reluctantly does so, expecting her life to end when the briefcase opens, but instead she finds 4 large bags of brilliant blue rock drugs. Shortly, a junkie is brought to test them, and when he goes a little nut but doesn't die, he's shot for his participation. Mr. Zhang offers her a job and immediately she gets knocked out. We are then introduced to Professor Norman, who's giving a brilliant lecture on cerebral capacity. He's stating that most humans are at 10% of our capacity, a few others have been able to reach a bit further inside, but not by much. Dolphins are at 20%, and that's how they invented sonar communication between themselves. Cute little nerds, he speaks eloquently and is quite knowledgeable. He has devoted his life to studying. Let's give him a moment to really draw the class in and check back in on Lucy. Lucy wakes up with her stomach bandaged and surgery marks, and she feels like crap. It would seem bloody gauze tells her organs are gone or she's now a drug mule. She's dazed and confused. She's barely had a chance to think on what's happening, when guards escort her to the lobby where an Englishman is speaking rapidly, and telling her that she and the other poor saps they kidnapped are all going to different countries with drugs in their bellies. And there they will be taken in and the drugs will be removed. That is a lot to take in right after you wake up. No coffee was even offered. Just then, Lucy stammers and doesn't seem to grasp what's happening. She's given a drink by Mr. Zhang. She takes it, and out she goes. All I can think about is the information right here in this group. They weren't given any aftercare advice at all before they left the country. Before they left, they were threatened, saying, "We have the names and addresses of the families of every one of you." Meanwhile, on the other hand, the professor is explaining that we reproduce in order to pass on the knowledge that we learn to the next generation, so that our knowledge and understanding progresses. We, as humans, have a need and desire to learn more and expand our minds with each generation. It is a divine right that is continuously handed down. If the habitant is favorable, we will choose to reproduce. After a while, Lucy wakes up in this concrete room with a really impatient guy who wants the drugs, but Lucy is not having them. She's scared and doesn't understand, so the guy beats Lucy and kicks her and leaves her to consider her actions, but the man has set off an explosion inside her body, because the drug bag is opened up and is flowing into her rapidly. Her nerves and cells start exploding, and neurons are firing off rapidly as her body fights to grab onto the new stimulus. She's crawling up the walls and ceiling, and her body is on fire, and her eyes turn a brilliant shade of blue, the same as the drug rocks. On the other end, the professor is stating that no human has ever reached 20% of brain capacity, but it seems to us that Lucy just got there. We can control other people at 40, the professor says, because we have total control over objects around us at that point. Telekinesis and many other abilities open up to us the further we expand our minds, but it's not humanly possible to get that high. No one can control matter. We have no way of studying the sciences behind the what-ifs because it's just not a possibility. We notice Lucy has been sitting in quiet contemplation, feeling herself. When the angry guy comes back in, she's lost in thought as her brain and body catch up to each other. She's awakened in a way no other human has before. She's also above the BS now, so she makes quick moves of taking him and everyone else down, before escaping into the city. She can feel, hear, and sense everything. She realizes she can do anything. Now that she can understand other languages as well. She makes her way to a hospital operating room, where she quickly diagnosed and kills a patient who wasn't going to live anyway. From there, she insists the surgical team remove the drugs from her belly. They take them out while she's on the phone with her mom. That's really weird, right? When she calls her mom during surgery, she tells her that she can feel, see, and sense everything and remember everything from her birth to now. She can feel air and space and the gravitational pull. She's crying and seems to be aware she is dying. She is saying goodbye in a way that makes me feel everything. It's all so much to understand, yet she does, and her mom is confused. This scene is actually very sad because we know already that this is not the Lucy we first met. This was a wild child who came to Taiwan for school. She loved her mom and called home regularly. When the doctor removes the bag, he knows right away what it is. It is CPH4, it's a synthetic version of a natural hormone that pregnant women develop in the 6th week of pregnancy. It gives the fetus all the information and substance it needs, and is essentially equivalent to an atomic bomb of energy and information. It tells the fetus to grow limbs and move and develop and expand. It makes the body and brain come to life. The doctor says he heard they were trying to recreate it. He didn't know they had figured it out. Shortly, Lucy returns to the scene of the crime and kills everyone in the high-rise office building she was held in. On her way to find Mr. Zhang in his lair, she kills even more guys. They clearly all deserve it. She stabs Mr. Zhang's hands and reads his brain because of the knowledge he carries of the locations where the other drugs are being taken. He's very upset and yells. Lucy now knows she needs all the drugs to completely open her mind and share that knowledge with the world. She has a mission to complete, so she has to act fast. But wait, I don't know why she didn't kill him unless he's needed. Later, Lucy returns to her apartment, gives her roommate some quick medical advice, and searches the internet for much needed info. She's doing this at an alarming rate. She is reading and studying everything ever published by Professor Norman. Just then, the professor gets a call, and it's Lucy. She has read his research and needs to meet with him. She explains who she is and what has happened. He seems skeptical as one would be, so Lucy shows him her abilities by showing up on his TV, phone, and laptop. Because she's on a higher level, he is astonished, fascinated, and shocked. Lucy wants to know what she should do with all this knowledge and power. The professor says we are here to progress and then pass on what we learn. So, Professor Norman tells her to pass it on. They make a plan to meet Lucy, who must get to the other drugs. To do this, she must travel by coach just like everyone else. All those brains, and still, they can't fly. So, she gets all looking good and can now change her appearance instantly. She does so in order to board a flight and not be caught. We realize she is in the news everywhere. She's now at 30. She makes contact with a lead officer at the police department. She instructs the police officer about the drugs and how to capture them, explaining to him that she will need them once they have been captured. Hours later, she gets seated on the plane and drinks her champagne. She works feverishly on her laptop and draws attention to herself with her abilities. She's now at 40, and her mind is taking control of her body. Yes, of course she doesn't have time for the upright position and kind of loses it here. Her impatience is growing, and her teeth are falling out. Her body is in fight or flight mode, as the professor said the body does. She's going to have a weird Sandman moment when she becomes one with the universe and falls apart. The human body can only handle so much, and her brain is overriding her body. Meanwhile, our trusty cops have found and captured all the men and are taking them to the hospital for drug removal. It's like organ cropping. Shortly, Lucy comes to. She's in a hospital with 50% of cerebral capacity and needs all the drugs. She takes out all the staff trying to keep her there and finds the cop she called Pierre. She needs his help and shows him he can give it willingly or she'll take it. She seems to have lost all human emotion after a certain point was reached and is in fact becoming robot-like. Her intelligence takes away all her anxiousness because there is no longer anything unknown, and that's the only thing that scares us, the unknown. Pierre gives in to her wishes. He's a smart guy even without blue rocks. They head to the hospital, where the other victims are being worked on in surgery. I'm going to drive and get into a pretty cool car chase. The movie needed one. I think the drugs are going to be removed, and all the other victims will be killed. I know this seems harsh, but they would have died one way or another. The airwaves and cell phone data tell Lucy that Mr. Zhang and his cronies are out looking for the drugs as well, and that her death is all he seeks. He's obviously still upset about his hands getting stabbed, which makes some people touchy, so the chase was from Mr. Zhang's guys. Mr. James' henchmen gets to the hospital and are about to get away with all the drugs. Suddenly, Lucy arrives. She's past the cerebral stage that allows her to now control others, so Lucy does just that. She quite literally moves men out of the way and blows off the attack like they aren't even there. Their guns are taken away, and the men are just floating in the air, and they are mad. She gets all her drugs and heads out the door while Pierre is staring dumbfounded. He cannot believe or understand what's happening. Lucy would kiss him, but you can see she's completely detached as a human. It's just a gesture now, but a thank you all the same. Pierre follows Lucy and will help her from here on out. He doesn't understand but can see she means no harm. Mr. Zhang's spots are leaving the hospital. She's completely lost in thought and doesn't see him. He follows Lucy and Pierre on their way to meet the professor at the college campus. Lucy and Pierre enter the university in a hurry, and cautiously says as much to all the professors gathered there. Professor Norman has given all the other professors the lowdown on Lucy, and they all want to ask questions and understand that this is exactly what the movie is about, the human brain wanting and needing more knowledge. The questions begin, and Lucy tells them everything she currently knows. She's at about 60% of what she knows. All the Taiwanese gang members, including the drug lord, have made it to the campus and are fighting it out in the hallway with the cops that have surrounded the building. They're giving Lucy and Pierre time to work, but guns are blazing and tension is very high. On the other hand, Lucy shows the doctors an example of what it all means. She's breaking her thoughts down and telling them what she knows. However, it all comes down to time. We have taken our vast amounts of knowledge and made it small so we can understand it better. We cannot understand it when it is large and open to us. We quite literally do not have the ability to comprehend. We know so much but cannot allow ourselves to have it. So we had to condense it to something so little and tangible, just so that we can live without going insane. We've all seen the top of a mountain with water all around, and under the water is a huge mountain. This signifies the amount of brain above the water we use, and the part under the water that we cannot get to. Lucy's mountain is almost completely out of the water. Basically, what Lucy says, is that time is the only proof of our existence. Without time, we don't exist. She explains that she will need all the rest of the drugs, so she can go matrix on the world and discover 100 cerebral capacities, in order to pass the knowledge on. And she can't be talked out of it, since her body is dying. When the professor asks her how she will do that, she says she will build a new kind of computer with all her knowledge and make sure he has a password. Essentially, she's at 70 when they hook up her IVs and start administering the drugs to her. They've been melted down to a liquid, and she takes them quickly, as her brains goes to 80% and rapidly climbing. On the other hand, fighting in the hallway has reached its peak, and everyone's dying and shooting. Lucy is 90 when she starts to become black slime, enters every possible electronic device around her, and proceeds to build a superhuman computer. She's reaching out to the far ends of the universe, and her body is being taken over by the knowledge slime. She goes back in time to the 1800s to visit the Indians, and then to barren land. She has gone way back to where the dinosaurs lived, back to the beginning. Lucy is so quiet and contemplative. She has a pure understanding of what happened when and why. She is completely calm in all the madness around her, both inside and outside of her mind. She will keep going until she touches life itself. While this is happening, all the bad guys have died, the room has fallen into a white space, and the computer that is Lucy is coming to life. The professors are confused, however, Professor Norman seems fascinated. This is what his entire study and pursuit has been. This very knowledge is being given to him, knowledge that would have stayed locked away forever. In the room outside her mind, Mr. Zhang is pointing a gun at Lucy and moving in slow motion as he walks up to her. She is traveling back and does not see her shooter or anything around her. She is close to 100%. This part is a little scary. Is she going to die before it's complete? And does all of it die with her when the gun does go off? Suddenly, Lucy is gone, one with the universe. Her clothes fall empty to the floor, and Mr. Zhang looks around with zero understanding of what's happened. If this guy uses more than 3% of his brain, I'd be shocked. Pierre kills Mr. Zhang, and the professors all look around completely confused, but also not like they're smart guys. Just then, Pierre also